I haven't got a great deal to say about that Nintendo Indie Direct. I've got to be honest, there are a couple of interesting things, but generally, But as the title of this video suggests, one game actually has a Nintendo Switch 2 mode built into it. So let's have a look at the game. It's Mina the Hollower from Yacht Club Games, most known for their Shovel Knight titles, and also for creating games that you look at and think, yeah, I kind of like the look of it, but I'm not sure. And then you play them and you're like, my goodness, that's incredible. So what's it all about? Well, let's find out. So let's cut straight to the chase. Well, this is the first video that I've ever fully recorded in 120 FPS, because if you head into the menu for Mina and the Hollower, you can actually change from 60 to 120. Interestingly, if you try and run the game at 60 frames per second on Switch 2, you'll actually get a number of stutters and hitches, and it generally just feels glitchy. I'm fully anticipating someone releasing a video saying that it's bugged or it has issues. And realistically, they should have said somewhere that you need to go into the menu to change this. But yeah, it's not broken. You can go into the menu, set it to 120, and it seems to clear up 95% of those problems. It's also really nice to be playing something at 120. Now, outside of that, what is Mina the Hollower? The story here goes that Mina has created these things known as spark generators that seem to have solved a big problem within this world. However, for whatever reason, you've been called in because something's gone awry. So you head towards the capital city. On the way, your ship comes under attack and you're forced to dock in a most unimpressive manner. Now the gameplay, they've fused together a number of different genres. I initially thought this was like a roguelike, top-down Zelda, and I've come back to somewhere in between, but whilst not having any random generation or any of that stuff that you would associate typically with a roguelike title, you initially get the choice of 3 different weapons: a fast dual blade, pair of swords, a mace or flail, and a very slow hammer. Now each of these, having tried them out, actually operate quite differently. The swords, being very swift, will be the easiest for most people to pick up and play with. The flail operates similarly but with a higher damage. I think the most interesting is actually that large hammer. If you hold the button down on it, it charges up an attack, and while that's charging, you can roll around. Now this is another mechanic that I think some people are going to struggle with, because the direction that you hold the button when you're charging is the direction that the attack will release. That adds a little bit of strategy, and it's much more difficult to take enemies out like this. You do have a light attack as well that's much quicker. I can imagine on certain boss fights this would be really good in the hands of someone that really knows what they're doing. As a Hollower, Mina has the ability to burrow underground. If she comes up under a rock, she lifts it up on her head and can then throw that. And it's also used for passing obstacles, be it structures that she can burrow underneath, or heading down tunnels, and even burrowing underneath guards if they're in your way. When she does this, it actually adds quite a lot of speed and momentum to her movement, and popping out of the ground actually enables her to jump a little further. In this regard, there's actually quite a bit of platforming in the game. Jumping onto moving platforms, using that momentum to cross difficult terrain, and there are bounce pads, and of course a bunch of different enemies. Now as you're doing damage and defeating those, you will eventually level up. You'll also be collecting a load of bones. Your bones are what you'll use to actually level one of these specific areas. Where the strange hybrid nature of the game comes in is if you fall the first time, you won't lose those bones, you'll just respawn at the last checkpoint. But if you fall twice, you'll actually lose them. There are also upgrades that allow you to store some of those to avoid such a punishing death. The other ones include improving the strength of your sword, the shield, and getting a level up also fully replenishes your health. Health is another area that has a slightly unusual, little bit soulsy mechanic tied to it. You've basically got 2 health bars. When it's red, it's full up and maxed out. When you take damage, you'll see it drop, but a little bit of yellow will remain. Defeated enemies and broken items in the world might give you an item allowing you to heal yourself up, and it will actually replenish that bar. Now if you get hit again before healing, then it will drop further and you won't be able to heal back up past the point that it's reached. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's nice. I didn't expect it. A bit like the whole game really, I didn't know what to expect at all. Now the levels, as I say, aren't procedurally generated. You're following a linear story with you crashing into the coast and then heading towards the main city. With each of these stages sectioned into checkpointed areas, and you can head backwards and forwards if you want to go back and find the secrets. Those include things like skulls that give you a ton of bones, or hidden areas, a little like heading down the pipes in Mario that take you to new places, sometimes giving you a glimpse of an area that you haven't yet reached to show you that there is more for you to find within this place. There are switches to flick and keys to find to open locked off areas, and it all feels really nice and slick to play. I certainly recommend checking out the demo that's up now. The demo includes 2 boss fights. You've got an early fight against a quite easy enemy. You need to use that hollowing move. It basically acts as your sprint and also your dodge, hiding you underground for a few moments before automatically springing you out. And you'll use your primary but also secondary weapons to defeat them. Now secondaries, perhaps more so than any other element, are what feel the most roguelike. You can only pick up one of them. They have a unique ability, and already I've found my favourite. There's this axe that you can throw over enemies, and when it hits the ground, it creates damage in 4 directions. Doing damage to enemies also charges back up the health bar that I was talking about before. So if it's gone below a certain point and you start to do damage to enemies, it'll actually bring it back up to a level where once you have a healing item, you can fully restore it. The whole thing has such a nice flow to it. Perhaps I should have expected it from Yacht Club Games, but for some reason I just looked at the trailer and I just wasn't sold on it. With this demo, absolutely this will be a day one purchase for me. Hopefully we get a proper physical. We've already briefly mentioned the artwork and the general look of the game, and it does follow the design language that Yacht Club Games are known for. Having done a bit of pixel art myself, it might look easy to create something like this, but it really isn't. To have that fully consistent thing, and also readability. Their art style doesn't lend itself, in my opinion, to readability, but they managed to do it using these contrasting colors. When I say readability, I don't mean the text on screen. I mean the location of your character, being able to place yourself within the world, and everything also feeling quite distinct. The soundtrack as well, something they are known for, has already burrowed its way into my very being. I can see my vinyl player in the background now just beginning to shake. It knows after Turbo Kid, it's already taken a backlog hit, but now it's going to get another one for sure. So yeah, let me know in the comments, have you played the demo? Have you enjoyed it? I thought I'd put out a little video on it because I found it interesting that it has, well, perhaps our first example of a Switch 2 mode that's selectable by the user, which is just a smart way of doing things, and it's just much more fun than I thought it would be. So yeah, I thought we'd talk about it. Thank you to all of you that enjoy the content. If you missed my Turbo Kid review, well, it's up on the channel. What a game that is. Cracking title. Thank you to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content. If you want to save a bit of bunts, go to switchup.gg, you get 5% in cash back. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!